Hey there, I'm Dr. Steve Turley, your Patriot Professor at TurleyTalks.com. I am so looking forward to being part of speaking at the Doug Mastriano campaign rally at Spooky Nook Sports Complex in Lancaster, Pennsylvania on Tuesday, March 15th. As you know, Doug is a true patriot who's taking on the establishment and fighting for the values of faith, family, and freedom that Pennsylvanians and patriots all across the nation hold dear. There's no one like him. He's a combat vet, he's a professor, he's a scholar, he's a PhD, he's got 4 master's degrees, he's a published author. He's basically the exact opposite of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. He's a national treasure, and he's about to be your next governor, and I want to be a part of that. So make sure to register now and join me and Senator Doug on March 15th, and I can't wait to see you there.
She's phenomenal. Oh, there she is. Hi, Kathy. Welcome.
Hey, guys.
Great.
Hey,
nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Pleasure. Yeah. So, Kathy, I remember meeting you real briefly in the VIP room before Senator Mastriano made his big announcement, and then he endorsed you, which was even a cooler thing just to see what he's done. He was on earlier today. He's going down to see the Freedom Convoy and speak at an event. And we're just real privileged to have you on here. And I just want to introduce you to Dr. Turley. I know you guys briefly met, but it was like a crazy day. So this is Steve, but I had a few questions I just wanted to ask you. Today's a rhino hunting boot camp for our people that are on here. And I just wanted to ask you, like, what was your backstory? How did you end up getting involved in politics? Kind of give people a little bit of your backstory, and I have a couple follow-up questions from there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always been interested in politics, but like I often say to people, I was born into the Democrat Party, just like I was born into brown skin. Although I don't like the cliche, but there is some truth in the moniker, if you are Black, then you must be a Democrat. We are, attacking that label, but there is some truth in there, right? There's about a 92% chance every Black person you meet is going to be a Democrat. But I was a junior in college when the very first time I had an epiphany. I wanted to get involved in politics, and I went to the first Democrat office I saw. And as I was sitting there listening to this gentleman speak to me, the thought came to me, do you even know what he believes? Do you even know if what he believes is what you believe? And I was so uncomfortable because I could not remember one of his policies. But that was a seed that was planted when I was a young girl, a junior in college. And that seed continued to grow through my days in Wall Street, corporate America, adjunct professor of corporate finance, and on throughout life. That very quickly brought me to the place where I am a solid Republican, and not just any old Republican, but a conservative Republican.
Wow, that's awesome. So in junior in high school, wow, you made that step. And what was along that journey where you started to really ask those questions, like what do they believe in? What was some of those things that happened along there to get clarity for you around what was actually going to represent your values and what caused you to move towards the a conservative bent?
Yeah, if I said junior in high school, pardon me, I meant to say a junior in college.
Oh, okay.
And now I grew up on a pig farm in Southern Alabama. I grew up below the bottom rung of the economic ladder. I grew up in a home with no insulation, no running water, an outhouse in the back, and a well on the side. When I say poor, I mean we couldn't even afford the other O. We were just po. And yet, no one ever called me a victim. No one ever said, Kathy, because you're Black, because you're a woman, because you're poor, all the odds are against you. No one even said, Kathy, because you have the blood of slaves coursing through your veins, you're a victim. No one ever said that to me. I saw them working very, very hard. And so, so although there is that label, that phrase, if you're Black, you must be a Democrat, the overwhelming majority of Black people are conservative. I mean, I certainly grew up as a conservative. The problem is conservatives, primarily Republicans, for whatever the reason, do not spend much time in these predominantly Black communities. And so therefore you leave a vacuum where only Democrats are willing to go in. But certainly as I grew up, I saw my family waking up early, going to bed late, taking care of their family, taking care of their community, very close-knit community. So I grew up as a conservative, and yet I voted Democrat. And again, it wasn't until I went into this office to apply to join this guy's team did I have a thought. And I think it was, I believe it was the Holy Spirit just speaking to me, asking me the question, do you even know what he believes? And when I was presented with that, and I was sitting there trying to think, well, what does he believe? I couldn't think of it, which then goes back, well, why are you sitting in here? But again, that was the seed that was planted that started me to watching what these politicians profess and what they claim and how those policies actually show up in communities where I specifically was living within the Black community. And if you look at their policies and their ideas and how they actually show up in reality, they suck. And so it's nothing good about it. They leave Black people broken, and bruised with a ton of chaos following behind them. And so for me, watching that, looking at that, understanding how the world works, it became a no-brainer for me.
Wow. Wow. Thank
Love
you.
it.
Yeah.
Can we get a shirt like that? One of our shirts. They suck. Democrats' policies suck. Can I chime in here real quick? Because
Yeah,
I really, Kathy, I'm curious what your view is, and thank you so much for being on. So wonderful to have you. So Steve Bannon has been talking a lot about Black men defecting over to the Patriot Republican side of things. I think Trump doubled his support among Black men. I was just looking at it now. I think depending on the exit polling, it looked like anywhere from 12, maybe even possibly upwards of 18% of Black men had voted for Trump. Are you seeing something like that in your own experience?
Absolutely.
Are you seeing Black men abandoning the Democratic Party and being attracted much more to a patriot-based Republican Party?
Yeah, yes, I am. And I appreciate your nuance because, Black women, it's a harder nut to crack. But
Yeah,
when you're
that's a tough
looking
one.
at Black men, absolutely. And I saw it in 2020 when I ran for the very first time for the 4th Congressional District. Black Lives Matter, they were having rallies here in my community, in my county, which sits right outside of Philadelphia. It's the second most wealthiest county in the state of Pennsylvania, where I live in Montgomery County. It's the 3rd most populated county. And so these people are rich and there's a lot of them and they're real woke. And so they were having a lot of Black Lives Matter rallies. They would not invite me to those rallies. So I just started showing up, walking up on the stage, taking the mic and saying, what you gonna do about it? I'm Black. And I would start talking to Black people, and every single time they would just start applauding. Why? Because Black people are not special little unicorns. We want exactly what everyone else wants. We want safe streets. We want good jobs. We want good schools. When I pick up the phone and call 911, I don't want a social worker coming to my house trying to have a conversation with me. I want the popo. And so I go up on stage and I'm talking to Black people because, again, where I live in Montgomery County is the second wealthiest county in the state of Pennsylvania, but where Black people live, it's 35% below the poverty level.
Wow.
And I would ask Black people when I go into their communities, help me do the math on that. How is that possible? And then, and I have the other folks just standing right there. So they began to bring me into their community on their side of the tracks. The Black men started going door to door with my flyers, handing it out to people. That doesn't happen to Republicans. And now so that was in 2020. So today, I had about an hour and a half between meetings up in the northeast portion of Pennsylvania. My team brought about 30 Black men into a room. I spoke to them for 30 minutes. The next 30 minutes, they all changed their voter registration from Democrat to Republican, except for one. You can go out there on Facebook and see that. Now I have the Horn of Africa. I'm sure your listeners are familiar with that. We're talking about Sudan, Somalia, Ethiopia, Eritrea. There's about 100,000 of them here in Pennsylvania, highly concentrated between Harrisburg and Philadelphia. They sought me out, overwhelmingly Black men who most of them are Democrats. I've met with them about 6 times now. The last 4 times they have done what they call change your registration party. They're making 1,000 phone calls a day because they realize I can't help them if I don't get past the primary. And in order for me to get past the primary, they have to vote for me. But in
Right.
order to do that, they have to change their voter registration, and they're doing it. So I
Wow.
am very excited. The Republican Party, there's a ton of new voices, not just Black people, but a ton of new voices, new faces. The only thing we can do to screw the pooch here is to pick a bad candidate. And that's what I keep saying to the Republican Party. Don't screw the pooch and pick a bad candidate.
Right.
Pick a candidate that has the ability to go into every single corner of the Commonwealth and go get those votes, because we Republicans, we have the best story to tell. We just keep picking people who suck at telling it. We
Yep.
got to start picking
Right.
better people to tell our stories.
So Kathy, just going direct with you here, what makes a rhino a rhino?
I mean, I thought about this a lot. Last year, when I ran in 2020, I added a new word to my lexicon. It was nuance. The new word for 2021 is suck. So you will hear me say that a lot. Just but it really isn't just about, and I'm sure Dr. Steve, you are aware of this. We're really not fighting against Republicans versus Democrats any longer. This is about elites versus those who are not a part of the elites. This is about corporate socialism. And I saw someone in the notes talking about Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum. This thing is happening. And the more I read about what these people have done and how they were planning for, even before the pandemic, they were planning for a reset to include something like a pandemic, and then miraculously a pandemic shows up on our shores. And how these things happen is very sickening. So in the global view of the world, we're not fighting against Republicans versus Democrats any longer. These are people who are in power versus those who aren't. That's the world in which we're living in. However, within the Republican Party, I don't even know if we should call it rhinos. I was thinking like AINOs, AINO, if we can make that popular, Americans in name only.
Oh.
It's those who truly love this country and understand that America is the greatest nation that has ever existed. But she's in trouble. She's the greatest nation that has ever existed specifically because she was founded upon the greatest political document ever written, the U.S. Constitution. And so we need people who love America and who respect our Constitution and who will uphold the Constitution. And anyone who doesn't do that, if they say they're on the Republican side, I guess that's how I would define a rhino.
That's great.
Yeah, someone put in the comments, Aminos, Americans in name only.
Yeah, or Diablo, Democrats and all but label. That's another.
I was thinking ABOs, Americans, ABOs, Americans by birth only.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can make that go viral like rhinos, but
or we could do by birth alone and have it ABBA and have some Swedish music behind it or something. I don't know, but Dancing Queen. I don't know.
So, Steve, did you have something? Are you good?
Well, I guess so. Kathy, if you could give us like 2 or 3 things that you could suggest, some action points people could take right now to help defeat rhinos, what would that be?
Okay, here we go. I think the thing that I've learned over these past several years now, and it's something I've been practicing for a large portion of my life, is just to be bold. Just speak true. You know what Senator Doug Mastriano say? Walk as free people. Just be free. Stop playing their games. I stopped a long time ago. It's kind of like, it reminded me of when we were kids, and if we didn't want to play anymore, we just got our balls and walked off, right? I don't want to play with you anymore. I don't want to play these games. You're hypocritical. The rules keep changing. I don't want to play anymore. And I just stopped playing their games. I stopped wearing the mask. I stopped acquiescing and trying to help people understand or reason with people. These are unreasonable people. So,
Right.
one, just be free. I'm telling you, that is the most powerful thing we can do against a totalitarian regime, is just determine within yourself, I am free and I'm going to remain free, right?
Wow.
So that's one. The second thing, more practical things that you can physically do in addition, is get on, find out, become a committee person in your local area. Once you become a committee person, and if you get enough of you guys and you start coalescing, you can get rid of the rhino committee chairs over your county. That is very powerful, especially if you're in some of the more populated areas. The second thing you can do is to well, in addition, so become a committee person, also become a state committee person. These are the people who actually will endorse or not endorse a rhino candidate to be the one that will go before the people. So I think that's very powerful. So one, be free and walk as free people. Two, become a committee person or a state committee person. Those are very powerful roles. I just went through the whole dog and pony show as a candidate for Senate. I understand the power of that. And the third thing, if I can be so bold to suggest, stop picking people who don't need you. Think about that for a moment. In the Republican Party, I don't know what Democrats do because, again, they suck. But within the Republican Party, what we do is that our leaders, our influencers, they specifically pick people to put before you, the American people, the voters who don't need you. They don't need you. They're so rich themselves.
Right.
They can buy
Right.
whatever they want to buy. They can do whatever they want to do. They can go wherever they want to go, and they don't need the support of the people until
Right.
it's time to vote. And then
Right.
after you vote for them, they
Yeah.
shoo you away. And then when you need them, like we needed them these past 2 years, they look at you and laugh and say, why would I help you? You
Wow.
specifically picked me because I don't need you for anything. Politicians cannot serve both lobbyists and the
Wow.
people.
Wow.
Think how many times you texted your leaders, and I'm not talking about Democrats, I'm talking about Republicans.
Right.
How many
Right.
times did you text them? How many times did you show up at rallies? How many times did you send emails to them and call them? Who stood up for us? There were a few, but you can count them on one hand and still have
Yeah.
fingers.
Yeah.
So, my advice to you, stop picking people who don't need you because just because they're the richest person in the room, because that's how our leaders pick our candidates. How rich are you and how much of your own money are you willing to spend? Because you don't need me for anything. You could just go do it yourself. I think that's a bad formula because we've been using that for some time, and we solely pick people just because they're the richest person in the room and are willing to use their wealth. But that's not really helping us in a time when we need people who will actually stand up and fight for us.
That's awesome.
It's brilliant.
Yes, I tell us that a lot of the audience know that Dr. Oz is running for Senate against you. Tell us a little bit about, and we were going to play before your intro, we couldn't get it loaded up. One of those excellent commercials that are out there from one of the PACs, I guess. And then the rhino, depicting Oz and his rhino stances and stuff. Like in terms of Dr. Oz, tell us a little bit about whatever you're comfortable with sharing. I don't put you in a box here. But in terms of with Dr. Oz, what does that battle look like for you? And how can we help you through that? Because that's one of the reasons we're going to having you on here. We want to get the word about, hey, there's an alternative. He is not, I mean, I'm from New Jersey, and as I recall, I think he is too. I think that's one dynamic here, right?
Yes, listen, not just Dr. Oz. I have 3 rhinos in my race. So let me put it another way. I have 3 carpetbaggers in my race. They are parachuted into Pennsylvania. Dr. Mehmet Oz, with his dual citizenship with Turkey, is one of them. And then who have never lived in Pennsylvania. He went to school here for a couple of years, but have a sprawling mansion in New Jersey. I mean, fit for a narcissist. And he works in New York. Lovely wife, but he is a Trojan horse. And then on the other side, I have Dave McCormick. He's lived outside of Pennsylvania for the past 21 years. And he was, up until the second week in January, the largest foreign shareholder of Chinese stocks. Now, if you know anything about China, you know you don't get access to China's market unless you have completely sold yourself out to the one China way. They don't give those out like candy. So he was the CEO of the largest hedge fund company in the world, and he was the largest foreign shareholder of Chinese stock. So this is the equivalent of putting Mr. China himself into office, and yet he walks around looking like Opie from Muskogee, like he's just one of the good old boys with his faded blue jeans. He's not. We need to keep our head on a swivel. Let me tell you, with these three carpetbaggers, what I can guarantee you right now on camera is this: when they lose, you will never see them again. And if they win, you will never see them again. Yeah. If we ever needed a fighter, it is now. Now, some of our influencers have gone out of their way to go bring these carpetbaggers into Pennsylvania, and they have made these people viable because, quite frankly, consultants get paid no matter who wins, but they have made these people viable because they're rich, and that makes them very excited and warm and fuzzy on the inside. We do not need to send another person to DC just because they're rich. We need to send people to DC who will actually fight for you. I have been fighting for Pennsylvania and our country. I spent 10 years in the military. I would have laid my life down for this country, but not for this foolishness where we find ourselves right now. But here I am. This is the fight that we need to fight. And if you really want to send someone to DC who will listen to you, because I believe I'm your best chance at ever getting anyone in office who will actually listen to you, who actually understand the substance. I'm not just stringing along catchphrases. I have substance. I understand the issues, and I will fight for you. Please go to barnette4senate.com and donate. I'm not the richest person in the room. I actually need you. I need you as much as you need me. So please join our team at barnette4senate.com and donate. Every single one of you. I see there's like almost 250 people on here. That is so awesome, guys. So if all of y'all go out and donate $100, boom, that's amazing. That helps tremendously of allowing me to do what I'm doing to fight for you. I'm not just fighting for my country, I'm fighting for our country. So please help me.
Yeah, so from Steve and I, we're going to give you $1,000 just as a contribution to the campaign. So we're just very grateful for what you're doing, the fight you're in, and how important it is. And we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks and with at the rally in Lancaster with Senator Mastriano and all there. But thank you for coming on. We have a couple others coming on, some of the people that are in the state Senate, running for state Senate. And I also think Teddy Daniels is about to come on too in a minute. So you have a great day, and thank you again.
Thanks, Kathy. Thank you so much.